I be able to win a match? First time of asking, a new venue I've never been to before. Let's go and check it out, see if we can. Right, so we're at a new venue today, Match Day Live. We're at a place called Grange Park up in Scunthorpe, just across the road from Messingham Sands. We're basically filming a Match Day Live. I've drawn peg 12 on curlew. Never been here before, don't really know the venue. So I've had a little bit of information from Nathan Watson, who comes here now and again. He's told me that there's a lot of carp in here. There's also a lot of smaller fish like crucians, but I'm looking at the lake today and I'm just thinking carp, to be honest. If I can catch some crucians, great. I'm just going to keep it dead simple. I've got meat for short, so I'm going to fish a short line on an angle where it's about probably 5 foot in depth. I might bring that in a little bit closer to the bank. It does come up a little bit, but I'm not fishing it in the deepest water. I'm just fishing it on a top kit, so I'm just off the silt. If they start fizzing there and it's still a little bit silty, I'll just come a bit closer to the bank. And then I've got a line. I can't reach the island. The island's about 17.5 metres, and I think the fishing's going to be too good for that, to be honest. So I've got a shallow line there, just 14 metres out in front of me, and then I hear that they catch a lot of fish in the edges. My edges are only 12-inch deep. I want to fish micros there. That's my plan to start with, but I've got some ground bait as well if they're not coming in on micros, because it's so shallow. I might have to feed some micros to draw the fish in. So that's the start of the match. I'm going to start on this meat line short. Elastic wise, I've gone for black hydro. I know there's some small fish in here, but I've gone for black hydro just because if I do hook a carp, I don't want to be getting ragged to death by them on lighter elastic. So let's have a little look. I've just lined up with the edge of the island. I'm just going to start throwing a few bits of meat. I'm not going to use a pot, I'm just literally going to loose feed it, holding my puller kit as the marker. I'll sign straight away then. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to ping some pellets out long and maybe catch some fish shallow. So straight away I've had 2 little signs there instantly. They did tell me you could need in excess of £200 to win. 141 on Tuesday, but 200 won last week. So I'm just going to see how this plays out. I'm going to watch what some others do. A lot of it people have started short, a few people have started mugging. I'm getting indications there really quick. They could be small fish. Like apparently there's a lot of little stockies. And if I'm getting lots and lots of liners, I might end up fishing a little bit shallower. 5 foot might be a little bit too deep, and I might end up catching a lot of smaller fish. But apparently you can catch like 40-50 pound of these. So little stocky carp, lovely little fish, probably 10 ounce in size. The net rules here are £60 net limit, but if you have 4 nets in and split your fish, you don't go over, so that's a good thing. I don't have to worry too much about my net limits. I can just split my fish evenly and focus on the fishing. I'm just going to keep pinging a few pellets out. I've seen a lot of fish cruising on the lake today, but we're probably one of the only pegs that has got a bit of shade on the inside, and there didn't seem to be as many carp mooching about. But now the sun's coming out, I can see a few starting to mooch about, so we might end up trying to mug a few as well at some point. It's hard to see here because I'm in white water, but there's no rules and the water's pretty clear, so I've got the option of standing up if need be. Just throwing a few bits of meat. A lot of silly little indications at the minute. Loads of these like smaller fish, so 6-hour match today. If you can just get a bite of chuck most of the day and a few carp mixed in, you could soon have a decent weight. So just feeling my way into it at the moment. Keep pinging some of them pellets out long. Just throwing like 8 or 10 bits of meat twice. Just got to be careful that I don't catch small fish, and you know there's a lot of bigger fish coming out. I've gone for black hydro, which, you know, if I knew I was catching this stamp of fish, probably a little bit too heavy, but it's when you hook one of them carp, that's when you're going to have the problem. They did tell me that you get a bite of chuck. If it's like this for 6 hours, we're going to have a great day. I was thinking of fishing 4 mils here, just because I'd heard. I think that's a slightly better one. I'd heard there was a lot of these stocky fish, but I suppose meat's probably the next best thing. I didn't want to be fishing 6 and 8 mils short. I know the match was won on 8 mils at the weekend, but I didn't want to do that because I feel it's a bit selective. If I can catch an odd carp and then catch them smaller fish in between, you know, that's perfect. I can just keep bites coming. I fished 8 mils. You're being a bit selective. You're only really going to catch these better stamped carp. I didn't want to pick the wrong bait. Stop it. I didn't want to pick the wrong bait and end up left there biteless, so I just felt meat's a good option for that. You can catch everything on meat. I don't think there's any skimmers in here, but if you went to a venue where there's like skimmers, F1s, everything will eat a bit of meat. Whereas if you fish 6, 8 mil pellets, it's not as good for F1s. It's not as good for skimmers, little fish. You're being too selective. Little ghosty. It's amazing, I'd never heard of this venue until the other week. I was thinking of fishing a match up at Messingham Sands and I thought this was part of the complex. It's actually not, it's a separate fishery. It's just across the road, Grange Park, just up in Scunthorpe. Getting bites straight away then as I went in. I'm already thinking, I'm not going to change just yet because I'm getting bites and I just want to feel my way into the session, but I'm already thinking to myself, I might be able to catch these. Say at the moment I'm fishing at say 5.2. I could probably catch these at 10.2 or 1/4 so come back in on a little bit more of an angle. But I've also got my edge line just down here. I didn't want to go to my right because there's a few reeds and I feel like it could get messy and I'll have to start pulling fish out down there, so I don't really want to get involved with that right hand side. That was a small fish. I'm not seeing any signs on my shallow line yet. I know one lad, you know, I spoke to Nathan through the week, he gave me some good info. He told me one lad did catch shallow last week, about £100 on it. I know the match was won Tuesday shallow, but I also know the week before it was won fishing close and in the edge, so I'm loose feeding that as an option. You know, if it's rubbish we can just concentrate fishing short. When there's so many bites from small fish like this as well as an odd better fish, you don't want to be fishing at distance. You know, I'm not going to fish out long on the bottom, it's too time consuming if you're catching a lot of little stocky carp and an odd better carp, unless again I was being selective and I fished something like 8 mil pellets. but like I say, I don't want to do that. Hopefully these fish will just get bigger as the day goes on. I'm going to give it another 5 or 10 minutes on this, and then what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put a bit of bait in the edge. It doesn't look right to me, but you never know when there's a lot of fish in a venue like this. They might just come straight in on it. I'm not going to put a lot of bait there, but I just want to almost just test the water and just see whether them carp will come right into that shallow water. Like I say, the shades on it doesn't look right for it at the minute, but it'd be interesting just to see how long it takes them to come in. If there's no signs whatsoever, you know, I might catch somewhere in between this line and in the edge. So like at the moment I've got 5 foot and a foot. If I come into like 3-4 foot somewhere in between the two, that could be quite a good line. Change of tactics. There's a few fish coming in this edge. A minute ago there were like 3 there, and then all of a sudden nothing for 10 minutes, so I'm just going to put a bit of ground bait there just to see what response I get. A little bit of ground bait in just to see if I get them stay there and rooting about. I've put a few micros in and an odd fish has come through. See, straight away I fed that and the fish is on it, so that's a good sign. This short line has just been stockies up to now. I can get bites there, but I'm worried that I'm catching the wrong fish because I can't mug them, but there's a lad further down there, he must have 10 carp already mugging. I feel like I could be falling behind without knowing it. I'm getting a bite of chuck, but I'm catching the wrong fish, so let's just have a little look shallow and just see if there's any bites to be had on this. So straight away I seen a sign then when I slapped it. There's actually a fish over there. If you see a little boil like that, have a little go for it. Again, there's one there. Can't see him here, I'm just in white water, so it's hard to spot the fish, but let's go back to our feed area. So I'm just slapping a pellet, probably about 12 inch at the minute. Might go a little bit deeper. I'll bite straight away. Now if they're carp, that's a good sign, but it could be stockies. I don't know what I'm going to catch shallow. I'm going to keep feeding that meat line, but it feels a little bit too deep for me. Feels like the fish might want to be in slightly shallower water or up in the water. It's been cooler the last few days, and maybe now they're just like first little bit of sun all week, they just want to be off the bottom. So I'm just going to keep slapping a 6mm. I'm just using fish, and there's a little bite. Just using fishery pellet on the hook, so I'm feeding, it's fishery 6s here. There's another bite. Are they actually carp? It's fishery pellets, so I've got some 8s, but the stamp of fish I've had up to now, I feel like 8s might be too big. So I'm just going to fish what I'm feeding. Keep throwing a bit of meat on that short line. Feels a bit negative, that short line. At the start it felt like, yeah, it's alright, I'm catching fish, and then the last sort of 20 odd minutes I've not caught a better stamp of fish. They've all been little stockies and cruiries and little stocky carp. I feel like this is what some of these bites could potentially be. You don't tend to miss bites off carp, so say I've missed 3 bites already. There could be some smaller fish out there. I was just about to slap that and he took it. It's not a big fish, but I don't think it's a stocky. See, now there's like 3 or 4 fish to me right. Starting to show themselves on the surface a bit more. There's one here just to my left. It just gets that little bit warmer. The fish could just change what they're doing and start coming up. These are the fish that I feel like I need to be catching. 3-4 pound carp. You know, maybe they were bites off carp, maybe they was just being a little bit cute. I'm looking at the size of his mouth as well and I'm thinking there's not a big mouth on that fish. I probably would have missed bites on 8mm. Some venues you go on, the fish have really big mouths and you think, oh, I'd easy eat an 8mm. Might just be a little bit too small a stamp for that. Some venues 8mm brilliant on the hook and then other venues it's not so good. There's a fish there. Can we have it? Can't see him, but I've seen the swirl. He's disappeared now, I think. There's one there as well. Let's make a bit of noise, see if he'll take it. Let's come back towards me. See, I'm actually flicking at the swirls here. I don't know which way round its head is. Oof. He took it, I missed the bite. Let's go back to where he was, shallow. See, for the stamper fish, I feel like I might have been better fishing 4mm shallow. Might have got a bit more competition in my peg off 4mm rather than 6s. Even casters potentially, I've not heard anybody mention casters, so maybe casters won't work. There's one. Go on, have it. I can't see which way his head is, I can just see the little boil. I'll try and flick it just before the head. Let's go back to this feed. There's a few fish lingering though, I feel like I might catch some fish shallow, to be honest. I just seen one then as I went out and just mugged him. It's weird, it's like they're not coming to bait. It's a bit random when you get one shallow. Well, feels like a slightly better fish. Already I feel like I should have been fishing 4mm. But I haven't got any 4mm because it's fishery pellets, I can't just swap, so a bit of a nightmare. I feel like if I'd have fed 4s, I'd have got a few more fish coming to the bait. I've got the option later on to potentially fish meat shallow. That's one option. But again, I don't want to change too quick. I'm getting an odd fish doing this. The fish come in on that ground bait straight away when I fed it, but then they're not staying on the bait. It's like they're coming having a look. Hopefully later in the day that'll come better. If it cools down later as well, this short line with meat could come good, so keep fishing this. The thing is, I've only had 2 fish shallow on this, but the 2 I've had will probably go, if I get this in, they'll probably go £8, whereas you're talking 15 or 20 stockies for that. So again, I think the biggest thing I've learnt already is just try and target some slightly better stamp fish. These 3-4 pounders are what are going to win you the match, not the stockies. So I can just tick along and get, you know, with the £4 a piece, 8 an hour is going to give me £32. You're near 180, 200 if you catch 8 an hour, so you don't need loads, one every 7 or 8 minutes. You know, we might catch some better ones later in the edge, we might catch a little bit quicker in the edge if they come in. This meat line could still potentially come good. And the lad who's probably winning at the moment, up in the middle on my bank, he's basically just mugged from the off, so I would say he's leading the match. He's obviously had enough opportunities where he can stay mugging here. I don't know if you can see him over there. Yeah, well, there we go, that's a bit better. That one felt like it was sat in the feed. Feels like that type of venue as well, where you could definitely catch on casters shallow. Them sort of smaller carp that'll, you know, once they come in they could really start eating the casters and it could end up brilliant. I know some lads fish big pellets here, like 8 mils, some fish pace, some fish meat. I do believe meat's going to get banned at the weekend though, so if you're watching this, by the time it's out, meat probably will be banned, so don't come here fishing meat because Andy Bennett did. Don't blame me if you get disqualified. So I'm just putting a 6mm on the hook. Rig wise, I've got a little 0.15 carbon cookie, so it's not making loads of noise when I slap it. The emphasis is on the hook bait rather than the float. Sometimes you fish too heavy a float for this. The fish turn and they look at your float rather than look at your hook bait. I want my hook bait to be the heaviest plop, if that makes sense. So that if they do come and look, because carp don't really sit in your peg and feed. They're more like just come to the noise and they're just inquisitive, so a lot of the time when you're slapping like this, you're only feeding to draw them to that area. They're not really sat there munching on your bait. Sometimes if they're small like this stamp they can do, but I feel you've got to feed the right baits. I don't feel like 6mm is right for this. So there's one just to right there, I'm just going to slap it just off my feed. There we go. Just seeing a little sign to the right of my bait, just hanging off my feed. Probably slap that about 18 inches to the right of my feed zone when he's took it. So if you see one to the left or one to the right, you know, don't ignore it, don't wait for it to come into your feed zone, go and have a little slap towards it. Like I say, they're inquisitive, they're sitting around your bait, coming to the noise. Sometimes they'll just be sat off it, sat off the back of it, the side of it. Oh, it's turned into a trout now. Seen one in my edge then, I heard it. So now if we can start catching at this pace, we're doing well, do you know what I mean? If we can, these are good stout fish. You could definitely catch 8 or 10 of these an hour at this rate. What I'm going to do, just before I ship back out, because I've had an odd visit in this edge, it might just turn out to be an edge and shallow day. So I'm just going to put like 100mm ground bait in. I'm not putting too much bait in, because I don't want them to blow my bait everywhere, and then when I go down there they're a nightmare to catch. I'm just almost testing the water in that edge and seeing what sort of response I get. Maybe I need to feed a little bit more aggressive, just try and make a bit more noise just to drag them in a bit more. Again, there's one swimming through now. I can see it cruising through my peg quite quick though. It's just to the left there. Mix up your slapping. Try it at left, try it at right. Depends which way the fish are swimming from. Like, as soon as I've slapped it to the left there, I've got one. If for example, if the fish are swimming left to right and they're coming that way, you want to slap towards the fish. But I've got open water there to my right. They could be drifting in my peg from that right hand side, so sometimes it's better slapping to the right. Sometimes they'll be coming from the island, it's better to slap beyond your pole tip. So just while I'm playing this, keep that meat line fed. Not feeding that meat line as often as when I was fishing it. I do want to conserve a bit of bait for later in the day, being 6 hours. I only brought 5 tins of meat, so I've got to be careful you don't run out of bait. No more signs down that edge, so rather than chasing tails, I might just decide to leave that and then just fill it in with like 2.5, 3 hours to go. Normally a dead giveaway sign is when these fish on the surface start disappearing. Later in the day it's time for them to come and have a look in the edge. So I'm not going to even bother putting an 8mm on. I don't feel like the stamp is right. I'm just going to stay with this 6mm. So at the moment, I think I'm just going to spend a bit of time fishing shallow, to be honest. Can't see me catching a great deal short. Bites have dried up on it. I think I'll catch stockies short, but at the moment I think it's just a case of I can just tick over nicking an odd fish shallow, then work late on closer in. You know, last 2 hours, 3 hours at match, I can think about coming in and fishing short and in the edge. But to be honest, if it carries on like this, there'd be no need to come off your shallow line really. You can definitely feel it getting warmer as well, which is going to help the shallow fishing. There's going to be more fish wanting to cruise about near the surface and come up. That short meat line just feels a little bit too deep at the minute. The edge line don't feel ready, so pretty much all I'm left with at the moment, I'm feeling like, is shallow. So what we'll do, we'll plod on with this for a little bit longer, come back in an hour's time. Hopefully we're still sort of like I say, a 6 hour match today is loads of time. I can't see me needing much more different rig. I've just got that carbon cookie. I ain't going to be changing my shotting pattern. Feeding wise, probably feeding like 8 to 15 pellets. I'll just mix it up. Sometimes I'll feed a little bit more, sometimes I feel a bit less. But I feel like I've got to feed 10 or 15 pellets twice just to sort of make a bit more noise and drag them in the peg. And then just slapping my rig. It's not a day where I feel like a flick rig's going to be good. I feel like the smaller stamp fish are a little bit more aggressive. just going to be a sort of slapping day, so I'm going to keep feeding that. I'm not going to put any more bait down the edge. I'm just basically going to sit out on this shallow line for a bit while it's warm and just keep doing this and try and pick some fish off like this, because at the moment it's getting a lot better than when I first started. You know, it's pretty decent. I'm getting bites, I'm getting signs on it. There's enough to keep me interested and tick along, so it makes sense just to stay on this. Nathan's doing the same thing across there. The lad who's doing really well in the middle, he's still mugging, and he's not actually feeding, but he's mugging them, so that's telling me again, fish are on the surface. They're up in the water because of a bit of sun. Don't feel like I need to be fishing on the deck long gear or anything like that. Right, so we're a third of the way through the match, 2 hours in, and we had a great little spell just mugging a few, catching a few shallow, and then now it's just cooled off a little bit. There's not as many fish near the surface, and my bite shallow just started to tail off a little bit, so I'm thinking of a change now. I'm thinking of coming back onto this meat. I've been feeding that meat line just to try and put some fish in the net. This shallow line, I can get an odd bite on it. I've just had one there, £2, but it probably took me like 8-10 minutes to catch that fish. Just feel like I need this cloud cover to disappear and the fish will come back up then. It's like when the sun's out, they're all swimming about and you're sort of like, they're cruising through and you're just getting one out of the blue. Like randomly, they're not coming into the feed. And also what I've noticed now is there's some fizzing going off on the deck. So there were none of that early doors. Now it's cooled off. There might be a few more fish sort of wanting to feed on the deck a bit more. So my next move is going to be come back on this short line, just see what happens, just tick along with some fish. It'll do my shallow line some good as well, because I'll rest it and hopefully gather a few fish in without the pole and the commotion of me slapping out there. If that doesn't work and there's no bite short and there's no bite shallow, I think what I'll do then is I might potentially change this to loose feeding a bit of meat, because I feel like meat falls nice and slow. I might actually get a few fish coming in and eating the bait on the drop, whereas I'm sure there's a little ghosty there. No, I thought I'd seen a bit of movement. It's so hard to spot these fish because I'm in the white water. I can't tell whether... There we go. Oh, it might have been a ghosty. That might be a ghosty. That might have been what I've just seen. I can't see the commons and mirrors unless they come right up to the surface. See, if I could catch at this pace, I'd just stay shallow. You know, I will stay shallow if I keep getting a little run here, but I just had a slow 10 minutes where it just felt like there weren't many bites and it felt like the fish weren't showing themselves as much. So I was just thinking about changing, but if I can get some bites doing this, I'll just keep doing this. Like, there's no need to change. I think the biggest thing is that sunlight. Like, carp love sunlight. That sun, as soon as it comes out, warms them up, they come up to the surface. And looking back now, from what I know now, I probably would have set a deck rig up longer. Maybe not today, but on other days, if I come to this venue, I feel like there will be days when you can catch on the bottom longer, you know. It's only probably 5 or 6 foot, it's not ridiculously deep. Some people said it was like 7-8 foot, so then it starts getting a bit too deep. Well, it's not a ghosty, I don't think, it's just a decent mirror. Probably weren't the fish I spotted then, because the ghosty I thought I seen looked only about £2 or £3. Oh, you little bugger. Probably the biggest fish at day, to be fair. Might be £6. Here he comes. There's a mirror about £6. It's a good job it's a 4 net splitty fish day, because I ain't got a clue what weight I've got. Really don't know. I must have 15 carp, so with the £4 average, like, we've definitely got £60. Could have a bit more. I'm trying to keep feeding that meat line. Later in the day, what I'll probably do is I'll sack that meat line off. If they start coming in my edge, I don't want to be feeding 2 lines too close, because then I can be stopping my fish coming into my edge. For the time being, they're not going to be coming in my edge confidently, so I'm going to keep feeding that meat, and that meat line might come really good. I don't know, you know, if the bigger fish turn up and the stockies move a little bit. Early doors it was just turning into stockies. I've had a few stockies on this as well, which, like the little bites like that, I feel some of them are stockies. I've had a couple of little 6-ounce carp shallow, whereas when it was good early I didn't catch any little ones. So again, like, that's a sign that probably they're getting a look in, because the better stamped fish aren't there, but I still feel like there's enough carp out here to probably at least be doing this for another 20 minutes. Another little bite then. I can only really spot the muggers when they come really close. I've had a couple at like 5-6 metres as I'm shipping out. I've seen one and got it. Oh, there's one over. Oh, there's one there as well. He's swimming a bit fast. Is he going that way? See a little swirl just to the left of it. He's somewhere near that. You're just flicking at the swirls and guessing, really, that, well, hoping that their head's facing that way. Sometimes they've already gone past it. It does feel like the lake's slowing down a little bit. Hopefully it'll pick back up again. I mean, it's been brilliant fishing still. I'm not saying it's slowed down where nobody's catching, everyone's still catching, but early doors it looked like it were going to be really absolutely lift off, and then it's just starting to slow a little bit, but still enough to keep me doing this. I don't feel like I need to change just yet. 10 minutes ago I did feel like I needed to change. You get a real mixture of fish. Like, you could catch a little 6-ounce stocky, a pounder, 2 3-pounder, you could get a 5-6 pounder, could be a common, a mirror, a ghosty, a crewy. Like, it's a mega little fishery, this. I can imagine when it's really, really solid as well, and they're really having a munch, they'll just come in that edge from start to finish. I think £420 the best weight. Steve Curtis said he had 420 last year or this year. It might even be the venue record, I'm not sure, but it's definitely the best weight on this lake. Come on, angry little thing. Get a little bit more control with that puller. Really fit fish as well, especially these little commoners. I'm glad I didn't fish white hydra or grey. Black's definitely needed. So it's a bit overgunned for the stockies, but you don't lose any. You know, you're not bumping them and stuff. Float's just slid, so I'll slide my float back down there. Probably fishing about 16-18 inch. 6mm has been the best. We're a little bit quieter then, that's why. Carp in the peg, a good one as well, £5. So I thought something had changed then. I thought, oh, where's all the indications gone? So if the carp do rock up here, the little fish might well bugger off. And I won't get as many silly indications. So that was interesting. It's the first time my float sort of sat there and I thought, hey, where's the fish gone? And then I caught my biggest fish off this line, so. Let's see what happens this time. Now I've got rid of him, I might go back to catching smaller fish. Indication straight away, and again the small fish will come back in now. So yeah, you probably will know when there's a carp knocking about, because it'll probably just go quiet. Pinging some pellets out on that long line. I'm going to go back out shallow in a minute just to have a look. I've fed it for a while now, I just want to see if there's anything back out there, because if that goes rubbish I can get enough bites short where I feel like I could probably focus my attentions this second half of the match short. You know, nobody's emptying it shallow now, not from what I can see. Nathan's getting a few, but not to the point where I think I definitely need to be fishing shallow. The only thing is he's catching the right stamp when he does catch one, so I'm not going to sack it off just yet, but the more I fish this, the more sort of like odd little carp I'm getting on it. I feel like it'll turn into even more carp later in the day. If I come up that slope, I could turn it into even more carp coming into that little bit shallower water. So one or two more chucks here and then go back out and have a look on that shallow line. This is two better fish on the trot. You know, they weren't massive carp the last one, it was only about 2.5, 3 pound, but I think this is a couple of pound. Mint fish, like one chuck, there's a bit of ghost in that one. One chuck you catch a proper common, then you get a proper mirror, then you might get a ghost mirror. Right, I've had a good little run out on that short line. I'm just going to rest it and just see if there's any fish back on this shallow line, because I've been feeding it for a bit. I do feel like that short line's getting a little bit stronger, so what I'm trying to do here is just work out where I need to be spending my time There is a few smaller fish on that line, but I am also getting a few more carp. So even though I'm catching on it and I can get bites on it, I just want to see what's out here on this shallow line, because if I go out here and it's not great, I can start thinking about sacking this off later in the day. That was a carp then. Not been on this for a while, so I would expect to get one pretty quick on this if I went out. There's a few fish blowing on the bottom. I've not got a deck rig set up today. I don't think I'd need it sounding by the weights. Probably would have been good for an odd fish, but I still think I would have caught a lot of them little stocky carp and it'd have been a bit too slow. And the weights come down and you probably need like 120, 160 to win. It's probably a great line to fish that. But if you're needing 200, you probably need to be a little bit more positive with your methods. There we go. So this might not be as quick, but it's more the stamp I'm thinking about. I had quite a few 3-4 pounders on this before. If you're only like this sort of stamp, I'm probably better off spending my time fishing meat on that short line. It's probably like £1.50. You know, if they're only that size, meat might be a bit quicker. So mid-match now, I'm settled into my methods, just trying to work out which one's best. Shallow was definitely better that second hour when it was warm, but it might change and start going. That was a small stocky. It might change and start going a bit slower as it cools down. Keep chucking a bit of meat in. There's one there just to the right of my feed. Don't know if he's swam through the peg now. Seeing him coming in from the right hand side. Little boil. We'll try going a little bit deeper. When you're slapping as well, just check your joints, because obviously you're working them joints loose when you slap it. I'm just going to go another 3 inch deeper, so I'm probably about 19, 20 inch deep now. See if that's any better. I feel like if I switch this line to meat, I'd probably get a lot of small fish. And before I was thinking maybe I need to feed 4 mils so they stay in the feed. maybe that's not right, maybe they've got a few smaller fish on that as well, but I'd love to come back and have another go and just try and attack shallow with a different bait. See, this is a lot of what them little missed bites are. Eventually you connect with one. You see there, little small fish. I'm starting to think that, you know, shallow fishing is probably not going to be the way forward this second half of the match. I'm feeling like I need to concentrate my time meeting in the edge. See little boils here and there. There he is. Oh, you little bugger. Took it as well. Nobody wants to see that, do they? As Andy May would say. See, a little bit of sun, I feel like they'd just pop up and I'd have loads of opportunities, but let's just go back on this slightly shallow a bit. I went a bit deeper then and I just missed an odd bite. It's not great. I'm just going to come back up probably 12-inch deep here now, because when they come in your peg they seem to be cruising quite high up. Let's just see if we get one doing this. If not, I might just gamble and fish short, because as you can see, like, it's not, I can't see this getting any better. They're not eating my pellets. They're not all of a sudden just going to rock up and be like, oh, here's a load of 6mm, let's just start munching on these. If I was feeding smaller baits like casters or 4mm, they could start eating them, but like I say, I feel like they just come to the noise when you feed 6s. And if they're not naturally cruising about near the surface regular, you know, they're going more on the deck, etc. It wasn't a massive fish, that. I just feel like shallow fishing won't be the one, so even though you get a good little run sometimes on a method, you know, if you feel it's not the right thing to be doing, don't persevere and end up wasting your time, which is what I've done here for the last sort of 5 or 10 minutes. I've bumped 2 or 3 of them little stockies. I feel like I could have caught 6, 8, 10 pound on that short line if I'd been fishing it the amount of time I've spent doing this. Again, another little tiny stocky. I like little crassios, I think. Let's have a look when I can get him in. Oh, there's a little stocky mirror. There's a carp there, just come up close and get her off it. Where is he? He's there. Where's he gone now? Disappeared now, can't see him. Every now and again you just see a little black shadow, but the light's got to be right for it. Well, it's all white. Can't see him. Right. I need to make a decision really here. Coming up to halfway through the match, seems like a long time to be sacking a line off so early. You know, do I want to fish the second half of the match? I've got 3 hours left. Do I want to sack this shallow line off so early? You know, I'm looking at the sky and I'm not seeing any breaks in cloud cover. which makes me think there's not going to be much sun come back out. This is definitely nowhere near as good as it was before. Well, I'm not saying you won't get a bite on it, you might get an odd bite out of the blue on it, but as you've seen when I've been on that meat short line, there's plenty of bites, even if the small fish is ticking over. I'm watching Nathan and some of the others, and their shallow line seems to be fading a little bit, so I might put a little bit of bait in the edge, see what sort of response I get from that, see whether they come in. Not much, you know, not like, if I'm going to kickstart that edge off, I might put like 3 or 4 decent pots in. I'm not going to do that just yet, just a little bit of bait just to see if one swims straight into that shallow water. But I'm definitely not feeling this shallow now, so I think I'm going to set that off. I'm definitely going to, I might keep feeding it for now. I'm going to have a go on this top kit line. I might keep feeding it for another half an hour. 20 minutes. Have a look on this top kit line. If it starts turning into more carpy, I'm going to spend my time doing this, because hopefully towards the end of the day it should get better. You know, these short lines generally do get better as the day goes on, so let's see what we catch on this. Keep pinging that for now. If I had to tell you what I'd do, I'm just going to chuck 10 or 15 bits of meat in there and see if they respond to it, because it's such little bait. If they want to come into that edge, it's so shallow. I start seeing an odd fish arrive without putting loads of bait in. What I don't want to do is feed that line too early and then there's bait all over my peg and they're really hard to catch. I'd rather wait until they want to be in the edge, time it right, feed it, and then hopefully I've not fed it too early and one comes in, moves your bait everywhere, another comes in, moves your bait everywhere. So by the time you want to fish it and the fish come in properly, you've got bait all over your peg and they're boiling 2-3 foot away from where you're trying to catch them. I just want to focus them all to that one little spot. Sometimes you feed your margin too early, you end up catching less on it later in the day. So I'll stick with this for a bit and then I'll one more look shallow. If it doesn't go under next time I go shallow, that's getting binned off for good. And then the last 2.5 hours will be spent fishing on this short line, hopefully. Right, just over 2 hours to go. Just having a little change up here. Getting rid of them 6mm. Did have my mugging rig on standby, but I managed to get 2 on that. There's not as many mooching about now. Just had a little spell where like 3 or 4 fish come up in the water. Mugged 2 of them. So what I'm going to do now, this short line's turning more into carp. There's a few more carp mooching about. I'm looking and seeing a few more people catching in their edges. So I'm going to feed my edge. I'm just going to put some micros in with my ground bait just so that I've got a bit of food in there. So I'll try and make it like a 50-50 mixture of ground bait and micros. And I'm just going to put some ground bait in this big tub. And then what I'm going to do to kickstart my peg, because I feel like this short line's good, but I don't feel like I'm going to absolutely empty on it. I just feel like I'm going to get an odd one on it. So I'm going to put 600ml of ground bait and micros right in the shallow water against the boards. It's only 12 inch there, so I'll be able to see when the fish come in. Just see if I get a load of fish sort of respond to it. If I'm going to go in that edge, I'm going to need 3s and 4s coming in probably. If it's just single fish, they're going to be hard to catch in 12 inch. But this line has started to improve a little bit. I've just had 4 fish and 3 of them were carp. Still getting plenty of signs. There's still like an odd little small fish there, little crusions and little stocky carp, but every now and again it'll go under and it'll be sort of like £3 to £5. So I'm just going to keep my eye on that edge. Because it's so shallow, I'll know as soon as they come in, they're there. I'll probably be able to see the backs of them. I don't feel like I can win fishing on this line. You know, catching the lad who caught mugging well in the middle of the lake. He's catching well in his edge now as well. I don't know what weight he's got. I don't know how we're doing. We've got a decent weight ourselves. Nathan's across, starting to get a few in his edge. I don't really want them stockers at this point in the match now. We really want to be catching carp, but other than me fishing a different bait, i.e. maybe 6 or 8mm pellets, being a bit more selective, I don't see how I can avoid these little stockies here, to be honest. I think you'd probably catch a few on 6mm as well. Maybe the carp will just rock up and push them out. So nothing, alright, I was just going to say nothing's come straight in on that edge, but I've just had a little boil right near my feet, right underneath my pallet. Actually goes a little bit shallower the further away you go from myself. So it goes a little bit shallower that way, and then it's a bit deeper underneath this pallet. So they might come in my peg from this side of me. Like I say, I want to see quite a few there before I go on it, so we've literally got 2 hours bang on left. So if we can have a good hour and 20 minutes there, a good hour even, just keep fishing this line until that line comes good. Bit of mud churn, a bit of ground bait churning up there now. Hopefully they'll find that volume of bait. They've got loads of bait to rummage about on, and we'll just have fish sort of lingering. All this here is all quite shallow, no more than 2 foot, a metre off the bank. So hopefully the ground bait will get spread a little bit and just keep them lingering on that top shelf, and then we can sort of just feed right tight in against the boards and catch them there. I don't know whether fishing in that really shallow water is the right thing to do on this venue, but it's flat there, it's nice. I can actually see one now if it's back out of the water. Well, it's back, it's just under the water, but I can see the whole fish, mirror about £5. I don't want to go on it straight away, there's probably too much bait there at the minute. I want to let them eat a little bit of that, get a bit more confident. There's not as many bites on this line as what there was in that slightly deeper bit, but the percentage of carp's probably been slightly better, so has caught me a few better stamp fish this, but I wouldn't say it's mega. If it were like 3 foot there, that could be really good. I just feel like it's still a little bit too deep. So there's a decent carp there, just having a little look at my ground bait. Sometimes you go to venues as well and like the stamp is just miles better in the edge. I don't know if that'll be the case on here. But where we're getting a lot of like £3-4 fish, they might be £5-6 in the edge, £8 even. I think the biggest fish has probably only been about 6, so I don't know if we'll get them as big as 8, but we might get a few more 5-6 pounders in the edge. Right, this is going a bit slow now. I'm just going to keep feeding it. Let's have a look in this edge, because I might catch one in this edge straight away, and then they just don't want to be coming in, so just wet that elastic up. Got red hydro, size 12s SLWG. I'm going to start on a large pot, so I don't feel like I need to feed a lot of bait. One there straight near my bait then. See, now I've fed quite a lot of bait here as well. They might just bypass that short line, just come straight into the edge, which might make that line worse. So I can see a ghostie coming near my hook bait. Got a piece of meat on at the moment. I could try a bit of corn. There we go, got him. You can see the fish when they come in. So hopefully now I'm watching. I want them to come back straight away. That's why I wanted to fish ground bait, because it'll colour it up. Gives them confidence to come back a little bit quicker sometimes. It's a ghostie about £3-4 I think. Yep. So now I don't really want to stop the fish coming in. I'll keep feeding that for now, just to see. But hopefully now I can just, because I've not hammered this edge already, hopefully I can get a good finish on it and keep coming back for the full duration. So again, large guru pot, just a little cloud. Get that up bait right against that banking. Hopefully they can't line me out or foul hook them then. I'll start getting lots of fish coming in. I'll just put a few more micros in my mix, so there's not as much a cloud and a bit more bait for them to eat. Sometimes you don't put enough particles in your mix. They don't stop and eat the bait, they just waft the ground bait about everywhere. There's nothing for them to focus on. I can see one coming towards it. It's a mirror about £5. Is he going to turn for it? He's coming near it. He's tailing up right on my float. Go on, suck it in. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Oh my God, go on, suck it in. Come on. You're having a laugh. Get it out. You're right on my float. There's 2 of them there. There's a little one going near my bait now. Don't really want him, I want that big one. Has he got it in his mouth? He started to run with it. I think it is in his mouth. He just picked it up and swam out the peg with it. I won't say the stamp's any bigger. Right, let's try a piece of corn. It's quite clear the water, so a bit of corn, a bit more visibility, that might work. Literally only fishing just a little bit more than half a top here. There's one coming near my bait. Go on, tail up. Tip up and eat that bit of cod. He spooked himself there, so I'm just going to feed that again. Keep feeding this because I might get a few fish here and then they just stop coming in. I don't want to be left with nothing to go on. Because I don't know the venue, I don't know if it'll stay till the end. That's where a bit of venue knowledge helps, because the locals will probably know now, right, they're in the edge, they're going to stay till end. You know, it don't look like it's going to rain or anything, so that's not going to put them off, but will I just thin these out and like they stop coming back in? Maybe I need to feed a little bit more bait. See, now there's nothing there. Can't see anything within like 2 or 3 foot. One a bit further down my peg. About 2 foot past my pole tips. Very shallow there near them bushes. A bit of a boil here now. Yeah, there's one just closer to me. So they're starting to come back in now. There we go. There's 2 of them there. He's turned away last minute. Go on. There we go. There's one still there as well, that's a good thing. That's what I want to see, is like when I hook one, there's still some there. Would have been nice if my edge was like 18-inch rather than 12. It's just a little bit deeper. I think sometimes when you're fishing in like shallow water, like 12-inch, you don't always catch big stampers. They can't fit in it basically, it's too shallow for them. Let's go back to a bit of meat. And what I'm going to do is swap my pot, put a paste pot on. A little bit more volume of bait. Keep chucking a bit of meat on that short line. There's another one there just coming in now. Looks like a common, about 4 or 5 pound. It's getting right near me float. There's quite a few fish coming in, which is good. It's not just 1s and 2s. Different fish are arriving. Just turned away that one, he didn't like it. There's another one here though, just under my feet. Right, we've had to change this edge line up. I've been fishing in that shallow bit on ground bait and I can see the fish. They're coming in my edge. Caught a couple when I first went on it and then it's done me head in. Can't catch them, float's not going under. When your float's not going under and you can see them, something's not right. So I've come off the bank just where it's that little bit deeper and I've started to have a good little run. It's just gone a little bit funny last 5 minutes or so, but my float started going under. I've only probably gone 4 or 5 inch deeper. That's a better one. 4 or 5 inch deeper. Probably gone into like 17, 18 inch. well, maybe 5 or 6 inch deeper. Gone from like 12 to 17, 18 inch. That's probably my biggest fish of the day, and that's what I was saying about these big fish. They sometimes can't fit in that shallow water. Sometimes you end up fishing too shallow water, and I just feel like that's what's happened to me. So I've come off the bank, stopped putting ground bait in because it's sending them a bit mad. They're just blowing it about and I'm not catching them. And I've just started putting meat there. Just started throwing a few bits of meat. Not loads, I've just had to up it a little bit the last 5 minutes just to try and get some fish back in the peg. And I can see loads of fish coming in the bank here, but I just can't get a bite, my float's not going under. Whereas when I just come down that shelf a little bit, it's almost like it's just deep enough where they'll pick the bait up. I'm having good little spells where it's solid for like 3 or 4 fish, you can't get in quick enough. And then you wait a little bit. Obviously that ground bait definitely brings them in your peg, but if you're not getting bites, it's not going under. You can't just sit there float watching. I've sacked that line off short now because I feel like I need my meat for this line, and also I'm going to be stopping fish coming in. But what I was saying before is that if I could have a little shelf at like 2-3 foot, I think that would have been really good today, just throwing meat. I think that would have been a way to catch them. A little bit more water over their heads. Like they're coming into the shallow water, but they're so tricky to catch. So I've just decided to drop down that slope a little bit. And hopefully now, this last hour, I can start to put a run of fish together, like, you know, start putting some weight in the net. And we've caught all day. Weight wise, I don't know what we've got. We could have 160, we could have 200, I honestly haven't got a clue. All different sizes of fish. Obviously when you're filming it's hard to concentrate on everything. Hey up, he's literally gone straight under my pallet as I've hooked him. Come on, don't do this to me. He's gone straight under my pallet. Ooh, that's a bad one. That was a bad one, wasn't it? Straight under my pallet, absolutely redesigned me that one. Done me up length. Probably a good thing actually, because I want to go down a hook size. Because it's clear, I'm going to go, I was bin fishing a 12s. I'm going to go down to a 14. Meat just sits a little bit nicer on it. You've not got all that hook point hanging out. Just bring them back shots down. A little bit smaller hook, go 17 to a 14s. See if that's any better. That's what I've been fishing short. Again, just throwing like anything from 6 to 10 bits of meat. If I don't feel like there's any fish there, I feed like 20 bits, try and get them back in the peg. I can still see fish here, but I'm not going to even waste my time trying to catch them. The only thing I'm considering at the moment now is putting a bit of ground bait in that shallow water though, because I feel like as they're coming in, that ground bait, it makes them linger, and this is where you seem to catch them down the shelf. So the ground bait might actually just drag a few more fish in. If I can keep catching them like this, I won't put any in, but if it goes quiet, that's what I might potentially do. Yeah, so weight wise, don't know what we've got. They're all different sizes of fish, like that one's probably 2.5 pound. Nearly lost that one. Went a bit schizo when I've gone to unhook him. Sometimes they're 4 pounds, sometimes they're 6, sometimes they're £1. Like, it's so hard to guess your weights. When it was good before, I'd just throw like 6 bits of meat in like that. Nice clean bite. That's not a big fish, but I'm just going to feed a little bit more that time. See, that one's probably 8 or 10 ounce. does hurt your back fishing like this, hunched over on a top kit. Especially when you're 6 hours. So just see now if I can come in, get a nice clean bite. As soon as I come into that 12 inch, they're just staring at your float like they don't want to feed in that depth. They're coming having a look. Whereas this extra few inch of water has just made a massive difference. Your float actually starts going under then. That's a pretty decent one. £5 common. It's so easy as well to sit there and just, I could have stayed in that shallow water, staring at them fish, watching them going, there's loads of fish in my peg but I can't get a bite. Like, you've got to try and do something about it. You know, it's not the bait. Once you've, you know, tried meat there, tried corn on the hook, it's not the hook bait. I don't feel like ground bait was right. It's dragging them in. Like this feels right now. It feels easy. When it feels easy and you're catching them, you're normally somewhere near the right method. So many fish in this venue. Like the weights have been really good. Last week I think £95 was last in the match, which is incredible really. So now there's a few there. Just throw a few bits of meat in. When they're there I don't really need to attract them, I just need to throw enough around my float to get a bite. And then when they're not there I just need to feed a bit more so that they start coming back in numbers. Once it's cleared my peg out, I need to feed a bit, get a few there. When there's a few there, your bait's just getting picked up quicker. I can still see fish against the bank here, like, there's one there now. There's obviously just looking for them last little bits of ground bait, but they're so slow there. Like here where I'm fishing now, I can't really see them. I can see them there, can't see them here. Sometimes that's what you've got to do, is just pick a nice depth of water that you feel settled and safe in, and then fish it there. So just another 6 bits of meat round float, just so they've got something to come and tail up on, and hopefully we'll get a bite off that. A little bit of a liner then. Still fishing the same rig. Like when you're fishing like this, you don't want light rigs. I've got a 0.4 bagger on. Just try and keep my float as pinned as possible. Even that's getting pushed about at times. There's no real need in going any heavier, but you definitely don't want to go any lighter. Again, just another few bits of meat. Don't know how we're doing in the match. I'm not sure. I don't know where we're up to. We'll just keep catching what we can. I feel like I've had a decent match for my first visit. I don't feel like, other than this edge line, which hopefully was somewhere near now, you know, was somewhere near what we need to be doing, method tactics wise, rather than chasing tails in that really shallow bit. I mean, because there's fish lingering here, I can always just drop back in and kinder a bit of bait. You know, I'm feeding here, I'm only 4 inch, 5-6 inch difference maybe in depth, and 2 foot away. So if I feed there, then fish could easily just swim in against the bank. So I've still got the option of trying a bit of ground bait, but this just feels a little bit quicker. So a little bit more meat that time, just because I feel like there's not as many fish lingering around my peg. You don't want them going nuts, but you want them in that little area you're fishing. Fish are immaculate as well, like them nice little fat, chunky, healthy fish. Until they get fed well. So that's a decent throw, that. With this style of fishing, like, it's hard to, especially when you've got meat and it's sticking to your fingers and stuff, but if you can be accurate when you're throwing, you're just keeping a tighter area, you'll definitely get more bites. I could potentially pot it, but I don't feel like potting's the way. I think if you're throwing your bait, you're drawing fish in with a noise as well, so I just feel like throwing it's better. Again, feed again. Not a lot of bait, but regular, because if I'm throwing 8 or 10 bits of meat in, the fish comes in, you could mop 4 or 5 of them up in no time. There's no bait left on the bottom, so you just got to feed regular, keep feed. I feed now, then fish come to have a look what it is. Hopefully I get a quick bite off it, and then I can start again. You don't want to sit there tail watching. So there's one near me float now. A little bit of a liner. So I don't feel like there's lots of fish, or not as many as before when it was good anyway. So this time, chuck a little bit more meat in. You can tell as well because I've gone and caught a stocky. And carp are lingering about. You don't tend to get many of these. I'm just going to throw a little nugget of ground bait down there just to see if I can get a few lingering about. If they come straight back onto that, you know, it's time of day now, last hour. I might still have another little look there. I went looking, then turned around and the float had gone. Nathan's just lost one. That's what we like to see. I'm only kidding. Nice common, about £3. A little bit of ghost in him as well, to be fair. Been a big mirror coming in and out of my peg, probably £6. Literally most of the day. He's there now. Oh, just dropped it near him, see if he'd take it. So a few bits of meat. That's it, just want to get that quick bite. I don't think it's a big fish, but a little bit more this time. No, it's not a stocky. I thought it was a little stocky. Oh no, it might be. £1 plus. So obvious that that little bit more water over their heads is just miles more better and confident. So what I might do in a minute is just put some ground bait against this bank just to see how they respond to it. If they come straight in, I might have one more little sneaky look there. But I also think, because I'm getting a few stockies on this now, and you know, they might just let the guard down this last hour and just come in against that bank, but if not, I can always just go back into this slightly deeper water. I'm going to stay in the deep water for now, but I'm just going to pot a little bit of ground bait against this bank here. I might just drag a few more carp in as well, and then I might just be able to catch them a little bit easier off the bank, just because there's more lingering in the area. And what they'll do, they'll kick that ground bait around, so some will still end up just away from the bank, close to where I'm fishing, but just get some lingering. I don't want to feed any ground bait where I'm fishing, because I think it will make it really messy and might start foul looking fish. So I'm going to do that again. A little bit of ground bait straight on top of it. Not because it's deep, it's just because I'm fishing like in the middle of nowhere. And what I mean by that is I've got nothing to protect my bait. Like here, I'm fishing tight against the bank. They can't really go behind my rig. Whereas where I'm fishing now, fishing in open water, if you like. That was foul hooked. Fishing in open water, if you like there's nothing to protect my bait. Right, fish have gone a little bit smaller on that line, so I'm just going to have a look on this ground bait. Just to see if this ground bait's any better. I'm going to put a large girder on. So not loads of bait. Just see. Right, there's a fish right near it already. Is he going to turn and eat it though? Yeah, well, no, it wasn't the fish that I seen. It's a small one, I think. Yeah, a little small carp. I'm still going to keep flicking a bit of meat on that slightly deeper line. I'm still going to have a couple of quick chucks here. Because if I can catch him here, it's 12 inch, I've got protection of the bank, it's great, you know what I mean? Everything about it's nice, but when your float's not going under, you can't just sit there float watching. There we go, that's that mirror that's been in my peg for ages. Since the first time I potted it. First time I potted it, he's been in. I finally got him. probably about £7, maybe 8. Keep flicking a bit off that bank. I can always drop back on that bank, but the last 2 fish it's gone under, so if it does go under, I'll carry on here. We've got half an hour left now, so prime time for him to start having a chew in this shallow water. Can't see any fish there at the moment. Might not be feeding enough bait, might have to go up to that paste pot just to draw them in. Coming into the last 15 minutes of the match now, and I feel like I've exhausted my edge a little bit, to be honest. Getting an odd fish. If I drop down a little bit, there's an odd fish coming to this ground bait. I'm not getting as much response just throwing that meat anymore, so just coming back into this edge, just trying to see if they'll come to that cloud of the ground bait. I'm feeding it and there's nowhere near as many fish coming in, so I'm just going to have a quick look here. If it don't go under, I will go back to that down the slope rig a bit. Just seeing like an odd fish lingering on this ground bait, and it's not going under on that deeper one, so see if I can nick a couple more fish to finish off. There's a fish in my peg there now. Just wafting my bait about. If it ever wafts your bait about, just come back in and start again, because your trap's been blown apart. You're relying on pure luck that it picks your hook bait up then. Whereas if I feed now, give them something to come back to. I'm just seeing a little bit of movement down that slope a little bit. I'm not going to spend long here, just literally, like I say, it's 15 minutes to go. I might have 4 to 5 minutes here. There's another fish coming in. They definitely like that ground bait. I mean, the water's not coloured. I don't know if it does colour up here really bad, but I'd imagine if it was a chocolate colour and it was just a bit more coloured, they'd, you know, be a little bit more confident. You'd catch them really easy here, I'd imagine. I don't know what the other pegs plumb up like you might, where you've got a bit more bare bank, you might be able to just fish down the slope a little bit. It might be nicer on the other pegs. Did hear someone say it's a little bit shallower on the other side, so you might be able to come off the bank and find like 2 foot. I reckon that would have been a nice depth today, like 18 inch, 2 foot. If it's flat, even better. They like this ground bait, they come to it every time near enough, but they just sort of linger around it. Just wondering whether to go and put a little bit of ground bait, because I'm only fishing for like an odd fish now. Just whether to put a bit of ground bait on that slightly deeper line, just try and nick a couple to finish. There's a little fish, not a big carp, but there's a little carp maybe up bait now. It's It's like they come in, they see it and they're just turning off it. It's amazing how they avoid your rig really, because sometimes they're right on top of it and your float doesn't even move. If you couldn't see them, you wouldn't think there's a fish there. The size of the fish as well, I think maggots could have been a good bait. Even just loose feeding maggots could be good, because I don't feel like there's loads of nuisance fish. Go on, it's got to eat that surely. Right next to me up bait. No, it's just swam past it. Just don't like that shallow water. I don't like it. We'll have one more go. See, when it's right, you normally feed that, the fish will come straight to it, 10-15 seconds, get your bite. You know they just come straight to that spot, but it's like they come to it and they're investigating. It's never felt right all day really, this shallow work line. You're getting it odd on eventually. No, don't like that. I'm going to sit on that slightly deeper one till the end where I've just been flicking meat. Like I say, there's not as many fish coming in now. You do need a few fish coming in with this, because you've not got the attraction of the ground bait, but because I've left it for a while, I might get a couple to finish on. There's a bite there straight away. So your float just goes under there, it doesn't go under against that bank, so it's crazy really. It's only a small fish, but even so, you just feel like, because you can't see them, they're just so much more confident. What have we got left? 10 minutes left. Another 2 would be nice, 3 would be lovely. Just to finish off. It's not a big fish. So I'm just getting that feeling now that I've exhausted this line. When you're fishing in slightly deeper water, you just feel like the fish will keep coming for longer. You get a few more stockies, which in turn keeps them better fish coming back because of the competition. I think that's probably one of the only things I would have changed from today, is maybe knowing what I know now, rather than being drawn to that shallow edge where I've got the boards and it looks lovely. You know, probably spent a bit more time fishing this sort of area, just another metre further out where they probably settle a little bit better, and you get bigger runs of fish rather than it being like a few and then they're gone, and then you've got to wait for them to come back. You're waiting for them to come back now. That's probably the only thing I would have done different, is instead of fishing in that 5 foot, which I felt was a little bit negative, just spent more time in, say, 4 foot and 2 foot or 2.5 foot. It is a very steep slope here, but I'm sure I could have found somewhere if I'd have spent a bit of time. A little bit of a liner. Carp's just spooked itself in that shallow water then. I don't like it when there's only one of them there. Yeah. See, when there's not loads of fish coming in, you can afford to put that ground bait in. If I'd have done that before when there was loads of fish and I was just catching, throwing meat, probably would have had bait here, there, everywhere, kicking up the ground bait, foul looking fish, getting liners. But now there's not as many fish in the pack. You know, it's a great way to try and attract one or two. So I'm going to do that again. A little bit of ground bait straight on top of it. Like depth wise it's fine, you can feed ground bait in 16 inch, it's not too deep, and that's not my worry. My worry is they just blow the bait everywhere. But I'm only looking for like 1 or 2 more fish here now. That'll be a decent little finish to a match. We get another 2. What have we got? There's another one. 4 minutes left. So we've still got a chance for another one yet. It's an F1 that actually. First F1 at day, good and all. £2 and a bit F1. So I'm going to do that again with a bit of ground bait. So literally got 3 minutes left now. Just see if we can nick this last one. Trying to throw a few bits in. I feel like that ground bait just dragging through. Nothing's coming in this shallow water now, which is telling me definitely thin my peg out. It's one thing about timing your edge. You're not going to catch there for 5 hours. It should fish it all day. Do you know what I mean? So it's about timing it so that you catch enough to see you till the end of the match. If I'd have gone down here 3 hours to go and then been sat here for the last hour just catching, say, an odd little stocky, when I should have been sat on that slightly deeper line putting fish in the net, ticking along, you know, your timing then can be all out and you're left with no bites basically. It's not brilliant now, but I'm still just nicking an odd fish to fill my nets till the end. I think if I was to fish my match again, shallow was really good early and then I could tell it had gone. Again, that's down to the conditions. If it was warm all day and we hadn't have had as much rain, shallow could have been really, really good, and this shallow water might have been really good. The bait I fed shallow, you know, if I'd have fed 4 mils or casters, you know, that might have been better than feeding 6 mils. Might have got more fish feeding in my peg. So that's an option if I was coming back. Short line, I don't know if I'd have fished in this deeper water next time. Lot of small fish. A few carp, but a lot of small fish. I feel like fishing on this slope would have been good. You know, big meat's apparently getting banned this weekend here, so you won't be able to fish like meat off the bank. You might have to substitute that for 6 mil pellets, or there's the all out. You know, we'll get weighed in. I don't know how we've done. Everybody's caught a few fish. Fishing's been brilliant. I ain't got a clue what weight I've got. Hopefully I've got over 200 pound. I feel like I have, but I could be wrong. Some of the fish might not weigh as much as what you think. So yeah, we'll get weighed in and then we'll have a little catch up afterwards once we know the results. So we've finished the match, so great day, but things I could improve on for next time. Obviously never coming to the venue, I had that gut feeling that I could fish a little bit, I was fishing a bit too deep to start with on the meat, and then I put that ground bait in the edge and the fish were coming in but they weren't happy there. So I come off the bank and I caught that little bit further down the slope and that was good, but speaking to Nathan afterwards, he's caught in like 2 to 3 foot. It was hard to find that on that particular peg because the slope was so steep, but maybe if I'd have just fished a little bit further off the bank, say 2 foot, I just cottoned onto it a little bit too late. So, you know, even though you're 50, 60 pound behind, just that little run of fish, the good stamp fish, I might have caught a slightly better stamp fish, like I mentioned in the video. Them big uns don't like coming into that really shallow water sometimes. So I've weighed in 245 pound, absolutely amazing day's fishing. Only good enough for third on the day. 50, 60 pound behind the winner, Nathan Watson, with 307 pound. There's also a 297 on the end peg down there. I hope you enjoyed it and picked some tips up. Absolutely fantastic fishery, and hopefully I can get back here sooner rather than later.